Gators, Canes, probably for the last time, maybe not quite ever, but certainly for the foreseeable future. We're going to talk about that matchup that's on the docket this weekend between Florida and Miami, the rivalry that we're not going to see very much of, if any more moving forward. Before we get into any of that, though, welcome back to the All Kinds of Weather forecast, y'all. We're going to try to keep things as positive as we possibly can about a team that's 1-2 and firing its coach square in the face. But as y'all can see, I'm your host, Neil Schulman. You can follow me on Twitter at All Kinds Weather, as well as on Instagram at All Kinds Weather. And you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube under the name In All Kinds of Weather Forecast. Also, of course, follow Adrian Perez. You know him as the Gator Diamond Pod guy. You can also follow his personal ADNDEL on Twitter. Got to take a second to shout out our sponsor, the All Kinds of Weather Forecast, proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it is savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That is 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, contact them, 866-998-5879, or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. Also, new to this episode, starting today and moving forward, we're going to shout out the CFB Forecaster model on Patreon. That is our guy, Dustin, and his brainchild right there. He's the guy that loves numbers even more than me, so why not just let him go ahead and do that for us and do it well, because he's batting a ridiculous 64.3% against the spread, which is unfair. If you're a guy that likes to do some sports betting, especially as a Gator fan this year, knowing just how terrible Florida is, if you want to get some enjoyment out of college football, you might want to toss a few bucks here and there on some game spreads. Well, Dustin's model is going to help you with that, because if you go 60% or better against the spread, you're good enough to be a professional gambler. So 64.3% comfortably clears that. So be sure to check out his model. Again, in All Kinds of Weather Forecaster, available on Patreon at CFB Forecaster. That's what we're going to be calling it starting now, actually, the CFB Forecaster model. So, Dustin, congrats on that. Congrats on getting that launched there on Patreon. We're going to actually have some more news on that in the coming weeks and months after the season. But for now, check it out on Patreon. All right, Adrian, Florida, Miami. You're a man of South Florida blood, we shall say. You have the Miami in you, and I know this is a little bit more personal to you than it is to me. So we'll start with just asking you, what does this rivalry mean to you?
Well, I grew up in Miami. I moved to Miami when I was like 4 years old. So I grew up there. I was born in New York, grew up in Miami. Went to high school there until I came to UF, obviously back in a long time ago, 1992. Used to be a season ticket holder. Went with buddies of mine through high school, through middle school. Would go to the football games, games. A lot of memories of going to the Orange Bowl. A lot of good memories, a lot of fun times. And even my freshman year at UF, I was still a little bit more of a Hurricane fan. And then slowly that starts to change. Obviously, you start going to school here, and the rivalry takes a little bit of a different perspective. And then definitely, sure, as you get more into your sophomore, junior year, then you start hating Miami, obviously. And my time of being a Hurricane fan are long gone, long time ago, obviously. But it means a lot. All my buddies are still Hurricane fans, obviously, and we give each other a hard time. We razz each other pretty good on that. And needless to say, they've been getting the much better of me lately. That's for sure. And unfortunately, Neil, they might be getting the better of me on Saturday. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, it means a lot to me, man. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously am. I'm not saying this in any disrespectful way, but I'm younger than you are, so I had to be taught the oral histories of some of the old Florida rivalries by my grandfather, who I talk about him often. He's the reason I'm a Gator fan. He was very good friends with Stephen O'Connell, who of course the Odom is named after. So I'm not. I don't. I really try not to like flex that too much and say like there's royalty there, but I do feel like the least I can do is root for their team. So even though I actually did not go to UF, I still it is a family school. It is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, the Florida Gators. And part of that was passed on through my grandfather. And one of the things he told me about was the Florida-Miami rivalry. And he said, Neil, before Florida FSU was what you know it as now, that didn't exist. And it was Florida-Miami. And that was the game in the state of Florida. FSU was a girls' school. My grandmother, his wife, went to FSCW then, Florida State College for Women then. And that it was just like having, I don't know, a pair of Catholic schools across the street from each other. One's a boys' school, one's a girls' school. And they get together, I guess, for like formals and maybe a couple of other social events here and there. But for the most part, they're kept separate. And that's what Florida and FSU were. So in those days, the football rivalry was Florida and Miami. And it was that way through the 80s. And Florida, for a period of time, played both FSU and Miami. And then, of course, Miami came off the schedule as Florida wanted to play a more national schedule. And here, I don't agree with Miami Hurricanes fans things on a whole lot. I do agree with them on this one thing, though. Florida and Miami should have been playing every year. At the very least, it should have been playing semi-regularly, like 4 or 5 times a decade, ever since the Gators took them off the schedule. That was Florida's fault. I'm not one that puts that on Miami. I'm not using the SEC toughness back then as an excuse. Florida ducked out of that series. I think that was shameful. I wanted to play Miami every year. Now, I will also say going to a 9-game conference schedule is the end of that. Even I, as someone who knows that history and really, really wants to see it back, even I can't argue with this, because a 9-game SEC schedule and FSU and Miami every year would be crazy. But I will stand by the fact that we missed out on at least 20 to 30 good games between the Gators and the Canes since Florida. Again, I'll say it. Florida ducked out of this series against Miami, which was shameful. So we missed out on a lot more potential history happening. We do a couple cool chapters here and there. The unfortunate one, of course, 2003, where we looks like Florida's going to blow them out in the Orange Bowl. And then we choke away a 33-10 lead. Brock Berlin wins the game and does the Gator chomp at the whole stadium. A couple of good memories here and there. 2008, Florida blows them out in Gainesville. Tebow, I don't think you want to say that was his coming out party because he won the Heisman the year before, but that was the first night that the 2008 team, the special 2008 team, really got to play against a somewhat respectable opponent because they played Hawaii to start the year. The first night you really thought they might be capable of something, and the fourth quarter they just exploded. And then 2019, the crazy, so many twists and turns in that game. Florida gets 10 sacks on Miami, and they still almost lose the game. I don't know how that game was as close as it was, but Florida somehow survived that in Orlando. So, Adrian, those are some of my memories from Florida, Miami, which again have been very, very sporadic. And since I was born, it really hasn't happened that many times. I'm only 30, so I've only seen a couple of games. But how about you? What are some of your favorite Florida Miami rivalry games?
Let me go back a little bit with the history portion of it, especially with what you brought up there about when the series got canceled. We got to go back to 1971 first. I know that's a long time. Heck, it's even before I was born. But 1971 was the Gator flop. That's when the series started to get a little nasty. The Gator flop was a situation where John Reeves, former Gator quarterback, who happens to also be the father-in-law of one Lane Kiffin, John Reeves was going for the career NCAA passing record that game against Miami. He was going against, he was trying to beat the record of Jim Plunkett, former Oakland Raider great Hall of Famer. It was towards the end of the game. The Gators were winning 45-8. Okay, towards the end of the fourth quarter, Miami's got the ball. John Reeves needs a few more passing yards to break the record. The Gator defense at around the 15-yard line, when the ball's hiked, they just all flop on the ground. They all lay down. Every single player lays down on the ground. Miami scores. Florida gets the ball back with less than a minute. And as time is running out, John Reeves hits Carlos Alvarez, another Gator great, to break, at that time, the NCAA career passing record. At that moment, then, the Gators jump into the fountain in the south end zone of the Orange Bowl at that time. They had a big old fountain, and the Gators jump in there to celebrate. Okay?
Yep.
So that started a little bit of the bitterness in 1971. And it got pretty spicy from what I heard. And then in 1987, Neil, what happened was that Bill Arnsparger, the University of Florida AD, contacts Sam Yankovic, the Miami AD, and tells him, hey, man, SEC is going to a 7-game schedule. Now, you just brought up the 9-game schedule now as to a reason why Florida will probably not be playing Miami again. Well, in 1971, it was a 7-game schedule. Remember, back then, there was only 11 games that were scheduled in a season. Okay, so once the SEC schedule goes to 7, Florida still had the neutral site in Georgia. Okay, it was a money decision. Now, yeah, of course, it's very easy. Miami side, Miami has always said that Florida chickened out. Miami had won the national championship in 83. And in those 80s teams, they were coming. They were coming, man. Those were the 80 teams with Miami, with Bernie Kosar, Vinny Testaverde. Jim Kelly was the 83 quarterback who won the national championship, or it was Bernie Kosar. Michael Irvin. Those teams were stacked. They were coming. So, yeah, they jumped on the whole Florida chickened out. They don't want to play us no more. And Florida, of course, kept leaning on the fact of the 7-game SEC schedule with the neutral site Georgia. It was a money decision for them. And then ever since 87, once that happened, we played sporadically. And that's where we are today. But definitely, I agree with you. It's a very bitter rivalry. And it's one that's probably, honestly, unless they see each other in a postseason game, is probably one that will not be scheduled in the regular season, probably for the next couple of decades at least. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. I think the only way we get this game back in the regular season ever is if college football goes to 13 games, because there already is a loophole for this. It gets kind of weird. Basically, if you play Hawaii at Hawaii, you get a 13th game. You get to play a 13th game because there's so much travel and there's so many expenses that go into that. So you're allowed to get an extra home game to recoup that. But aside from that, you're only allowed 12 regular season games. So if they allow everyone to play 13 regular season games, then I could see Florida adding Miami back. But with only 3 non-conference slots and one of them going to FSU, so really you only have 2 slots available. I don't see one going to Miami. And for that matter, I don't see another one going to any Power 5 opponent again, or Power 4 opponent again. We already wiped a bunch of them off the slate in California, North Carolina State, and I'm sure we're going to wipe off more. And Arizona State, by the way, we for now have left Colorado and Notre Dame. We've already played the first leg of a 2-for-1 against Central Florida. So I guess we could back out of that, but I don't think we're going to. We'd like to keep that one, but I just don't see Miami fitting in anywhere. Maybe as a one-off, maybe as a once-in-a-blue moon thing like in Orlando again. Maybe that. That's it. I do not see this being a home-and-home series ever again until we go to 13 games. The only way Miami will come to the Swamp again, the only way the Gators will play a game at Hard Rock, well, actually, no, because Hard Rock has the Orange Bowl, but the only way Miami will ever come to the Swamp again is if it's a playoff game. It just won't happen otherwise. There's no way. There's no way Scott Strickland will do it. I don't think there's any way any other AD would come and do it. I know you and I think both are fed up with Strickland's various forms of incompetences. I don't think any replacement of his would do it either for that very reason. So this is done. This is finished. It's cooked, and it sucks because I like this game whenever it is played. I just don't get it very often. It's very unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
It's unfortunate because I don't think did Spur ever coach against them? I don't think he ever played them.
He did, and he did beat them with South Carolina in 2014.
No, okay, with South Carolina. I was talking about with Florida. No, right?
He coached against them, but he lost in the Sugar Bowl in 2000.
Sugar Bowl. Okay.
Yeah, 27-10. Which is, I mean, that wasn't even Florida's. That was not one of Florida's best teams, but it won the SEC that year. The year after was better, but they couldn't get to Pasadena where they would have gotten to play them. But yeah, Tennessee, and then Ernest Graham twisting the. I'm not gonna get into that whole can of worms. That's one of my earliest real memories. There is a VHS tape of me somewhere running around gator chomping in I think 2 years and 10 months in my pajamas when Florida beat FSU in the Sugar Bowl, the thing you got behind your head on your wall. So I do count that because there's a tape of it somewhere at my parents' house. But that was one of my first actual memories that I lived through and remember where I was. That sucked. So another Florida-Miami rivalry game that we were potentially robbed of, this time for the grandest prize of them all and the granddaddy of them all. But anyway, we got one more game to focus on this year, Florida and Miami. We're talking about this being the end of this rivalry game. Is this the end of Billy Napier, period, for the University of Florida, Adrian? We've talked about that before. We know a little bit more, but not a whole lot more. We do have the breaking news that just happened a couple minutes ago that Jabbar Jalouk is going to be suspended for his role in the altercation before the Florida LSU game, which we completely forgot to talk about, Adrian, because there were so many other terrible things that happened in that game that we didn't even have time for that. The show was, I think, 75 minutes as it was, and there was a whole fight. There were two fights, actually. There was one, and then they got separated, did their warm-ups, and then they went back and fought a rematch in the other end zone 20 minutes later. So Jabbar Jalouk apparently was a ringleader in that. He's been suspended for 3 games. Adrian, I know this was your pick to be Florida's interim coach. Your thoughts on that?
My intern coach, man. Come on, what's going on? It's funny because during the broadcast, they had said that there wasn't even an unsportsmanlike warning given for that fight. So I thought it was much ado about nothing. And then all of a sudden now today, this comes out. So what happened? What did Jabbar Jalouk do? Are there any specifications? Like, did he throw a punch or something?
He didn't throw a punch, but he was kind of in the middle of it.
Jeez.
Yeah. I don't know.
So now I got to find myself another intern. All right. Well, it happens, man.
Still got my guy. Ron Roberts is still available. Also, Jalouk, not just the running backs coach. He is the one with the associate head coach title. So that's fun. That's an extra level of enjoyment we get to have. But all right, back to the initial question here. Is this the swan song for Billy Napier? Because there is a bye week that exists right after this, which is typically the time where you do this.
I see 4 scenarios here, okay? First scenario, humiliating defeat at Miami. They look awful. 4-5 score difference in the ball game, something like 40-something to 7. Offense looks pathetic. DJ Lagway throws 4 more interceptions. He could be fired at the end of that game, okay? That's one scenario. Second scenario, no matter what, it's after Texas A&M. Okay, after Texas A&M, they'll be 1-5. That could be very likely. He could be terminated then. Another scenario is the one that's usually the most popular one that I've been hearing is after Mississippi State. Win or lose, it's a bye week before Georgia. I think this happened when wasn't it McElwain got fired? The bye week before Georgia, or
no, we got fired right after Georgia.
Right after Georgia. Okay. So that bye week before Georgia looks like a popular little spot, regardless of the Gators being 1-6 if they lose to Mississippi State, or 2-5. He could be gone. If he wins any game from here until Georgia, if he wins any game, I think he's fine.
Oh my
I think
God.
he'll finish off the remainder of the season if he beats any game.
That is such a nauseating thought to have crossed my mind.
Those are my 4 scenarios, I think.
I think at this point, I know at this point the money is collected and it's ready. I will tell you that for a fact. The money is ready to be used. The question is just whether it's used or not. But yeah, I don't think that Strickland and the boosters have anywhere near that long of a leash for him. I think this is very close to being done. And I think a loss to Miami that's not of the vein of like Georgia last year, where Florida actually looks competent for most of the game, and then there's a terrible thing that happens. It's not in anyone's control that costs Florida the game. It takes the momentum completely out of their hands. Ironically, the last time Florida faced Carson Beck, because he also handed them a bunch of free gifts in that game. But if that's the way Florida loses, then fine. But any other loss, I just don't see it. I really think that this is it for Napier. I really don't think he survives.
There's another scenario also that I've been hearing. This is the 4th game of the season, and we talked about it a little bit on our last episode.
4 games for the eligibility.
Yeah. Look, NIL, there's no control over NIL, okay? There's no real contracts here. I don't care what anybody tells you. This is kind of like the players have all the control in the world, okay? After the Miami game, DJ Lagway can say, you know what, guys? I appreciate everything, Gator Nation, but I'm going to take a redshirt year, and I'll be transferring out at the end. Thank you for everything. It's been real. And he flies out back to Texas on Monday, okay? If that happens, I think Billy's done, regardless of what happens in the Miami game. So if DJ decides to take a redshirt year on Monday morning, I think Billy's gone Tuesday morning.
The irony of that being, of course, that Trammell Jones is probably the better quarterback, given what we saw from him and from DJ Lagway this year. The clear and absolutely flabbergasting regression that we've seen from DJ Lagway has even made that be a talking point after Lagway was penciled in as a Heisman Trophy favorite in the offseason. Now does not look like the best quarterback on the Gators roster. A truly stunning and absolutely astonishing turn of events for the negative for him. I think that's possible too. I mean, I don't know that how likely it is that Lagway will do that. I think there are more political things that are going to stop that from happening. Maybe someone tells him not to do that without the best intentions in mind, and I'll leave it at that without getting any more in depth as to what I think is going to drive that. But something along those lines could happen, and he could play despite it not being in his best interest to do so. So that's also possible.
But you know what, Neil? At that time, even though it looks bad, at that time, that's when his camp will put out that he's injured, that his shoulder needs surgery.
Yeah.
That's where his camp will put that out to make it look like, oh, man, he was playing injured, But look at that, man. He just can't go no more. It's all right. I can help his stock. DJ, you're good.
Yeah, and
it's crazy, man. Crazy times we're in.
I'll tell you, I'd be more than happy to watch the Lagway camp throw Florida under the bus if that's what it takes to drive the final nail in the Napier's coffin. Just because I stand by everything I said, that I really think this is it for Napier. But having said all of that, like I said on the last show, the guy is a cat. He has unlimited lives. You throw him off a building, he still survives. You drown him, he still survives. You try to kill him 20,000 different ways, he survives every single one of them. Like, you think he's met his end 20 times before, and he still is here. So I don't know. I will believe it when I see it, but I do think the likelihood is starting to trend up that this might be the end for him. But before that happens, we do have a game to talk about. Carson Beck, as I mentioned a second ago, the former Mandarin High School star quarterback that Florida once had their eye on, went to Georgia, did some good things for them. Definitely took a step back a year ago for the Dogs. So he left for the Miami Hurricanes, and now through 3 games, he does seem to have found his pre-2024 self again. Adrian, is that something that you think holds up against Florida, or do you think Florida's defense is better than I think they are after LSU's offense did not look very good in Death Valley Saturday night?
Hey, was Beck ever a commit or no?
I think he was a lean, but I don't know that he was a commit.
And then I think Dan Mullen took Richardson's commitment, and then that pretty much ended it with Beck, right? I think that's how that played out, right?
Yes.
Well, Carson Beck, man, we all know that he went to Georgia, transferred over to Miami here in the offseason when he was like a preseason Heisman favorite last year, had a rough year. Georgia really didn't care much to see him walk, to be honest with you. If they wanted to keep him one more year, he would have been at Georgia. So the fact he's in Miami, that means that Georgia didn't want him. He gets to Miami. He has an injury. He doesn't go through spring. All right. He was kind of like DJ. Didn't practice during spring. But the offensive coordinator, Miami has an OC, Neil. In 2023, they hired from Houston, Shannon Dawson. Runs kind of like a spread West Coast style of offense, considered to be quarterback friendly. So you see where I'm going with this. All right. Carson Beck seems to have pretty much just having fall camp has picked up the offense with no problem and is looking pretty good. There's another quarterback that's looking pretty good in what's considered a quarterback-friendly offense, and that's over there, Mr. Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. But we have plenty of time to talk about him sometime towards the end of the year probably. But it's amazing how some quarterbacks just get to these systems with a couple of months, and they pick it up pretty easily. And needless to say, we're having trouble over here. But anyways, Carson Beck's having a pretty good year, man. He's at 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, has a couple of true freshmen that are his favorite targets. One of them is Malachi Toney. No relation to Kadarius, but looks like a carbon copy, man. It is scary when you see this guy play. I believe he's number 10, if I'm not mistaken. So when you see this guy out there, he's going to have Toney on the back of his jersey there, and you're going to think it's Kadarius Toney out there, man. It's bonkers, and it's no relation. And then also a guy who sounds familiar if you followed the recruiting circle, Joshua Moore. I think he was like a lean also, a wide receiver out of Orlando, if I'm not mistaken, or South Florida somewhere. He's coming on strong, had a couple touchdown catches against USF. So Carson Beck's got some targets. He's got an offensive coordinator and a system that he seems to be comfortable in. And he's got an offensive line of that averages like about 6'7", 325 pounds, and they're all as quick as cats. Couple of guys there that Florida was trying to get in on, Francis Mauigoa, Samson Okunlola. Florida came up short for whatever reason. Probably some of this right here, the money sign.
Ruiz. They got John Ruiz.
Yep, and those guys, they're going to be a handful. So Miami's offense is going to be the toughest offense Florida's faced to date by far, and probably will be, if I look at the schedule, Neil, I think it's probably going to be one of the top 2 offenses that they'll probably face all year. Easy, top 2. Okay,
good scouting report there. I mean, yeah, I'd say Malachi Toney is definitely one of the guys I'm concerned about. I go back to what I said after the LSU game. Like, this is a game where I don't care who Florida played. I worry about the levees breaking. I wonder about the defense reaching F this, I quit mode. Because the defense did just about everything you could possibly ask them to do, realistically. I mean, yeah, they did give up a touchdown drive, sure. But they were pretty good for the most part against LSU. And they got absolutely no help. In fact, they watched their counterparts on the other side of the ball literally score points for the other team. That's after, of course, they did a pretty good job against South Florida and Byron Brown and still lost that game as well because the offense, again, did nothing. And that was after shutting out LIU to start the season. So I just wonder how much longer we're going to see them continue to fight. We've already seen Caleb Banks done for a long time, potentially the year. We may never see him again as a Florida Gator. In fact, I'd say there's a better than 50% chance we don't ever see him again as a Florida Gator. I'm worried about the offense starting to have that happen too. We have guys like Dallas Wilson we still have not seen take a single snap for the Florida Gators. I wonder if he will ever take a snap for the Florida Gators. I don't know that he's going to take a snap this year. I don't know if there's more of a I'm just not feeling it kind of thing, or if the injury is serious. But I don't see any progression being made towards him being able to play for Florida. I'm hearing nothing of that sort. So it's just things are trending the wrong way for Florida. This is the kind of game where I worry that Carson Beck has a bounce back game because I think he is better than he was a year ago. The change of scenery sometimes just helps people that way. Good for him. Respect that. I don't think it would matter who this game is. I think this landing spot after that LSU game is just bad news for Florida. I really worry that this is where things come off the rails and just barrel into the forest. And sooner or later, it's going to go slam into a tree. That's the only way this ends. It's not going to run out of gas naturally. It was coming off the rails too hot. It's going to hit a tree. There's so many trees there. It's just going to just pick one, and this thing is going to crash and end up in smoke. And that's the point, of course, in which we wound up getting an interim coach, which we talked about in the last show. So before we get on to the verdict, we got to talk about our own quarterback situation with DJ Lagway. So clearly not the same guy we saw a year ago. We talked about it on the last show. We talked about the mechanics. We talked about what you called the clipped wing. We talked about how he just doesn't throw the ball with confidence. He's being let down by his eyes and his brain. He threw a ball into triple coverage that I don't think he throws a year ago. Frankly, I think that's a bad decision that is being made in part because he's so frantic and frightened out there, whereas he wasn't a year ago. Part of that is just the confidence being shot with the interceptions he's thrown. Part of it is just not processing things quick enough. Whatever it is, he's just not a good quarterback right now. And we do have a quarterback on the roster who did look good in the period of time we did see him in Trammell Jones. Is this a game for reasons of Billy Napier fearing or feeling that his job is going to come to an end or not? Regardless of that, do you think this is a game where we might see Trammell Jones?
I think that you got to have DJ on a shorter leash. If DJ is not on a shorter leash this game, then Billy's just, he's just not serious about what he's doing. He's just out there kind of playing Madden or something, doing what he likes to do, right? Call plays. Instead of playing it in front of a TV, he's playing it on the sideline of a college football game, right? Because if he doesn't have DJ on a short leash, then he's just not taking it serious. I say if DJ keeps having difficulties reading defenses, keeps having difficulties throwing into double, triple coverage, I give it 2. I think Billy gives him 1. And again, this is with the caveat that Billy's still taking this seriously, okay? If he's not taking it seriously, then disregard what I say from here on out. But if he's taking it seriously, I think Billy gives him 1 INT. The second one, I think he's got to come out for the rest of the game. No matter what the situation is, even if the next drive starts at the 1-yard line, Florida 1-yard line, you got to go with Trammell Jones, okay? So I give him 2 interceptions, and he's out on the bench, and just watch the game a little bit, man. Take some more mental reps or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because the first batch of mental reps he took worked out very well for him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I could just sit here and mess around on my iPad and pretend like I'm playing a game, and it would be every bit as successful as Billy Napier in terms of his play calling. Like I could pick a play out of a hat and it'd be more successful than what Billy Napier does, simply because then there's more predictability. Because with Napier, you think I'm joking when I say that? I think like that's some kind of ad hominem. No, it's not. I mean that with dead sincerity, because at least if I picked play calls out of a hat, there would be more predictability than there is at Billy Napier's offense. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Zero sarcasm intended with that statement. So, all right, let's put a bow on this, and I got to get packing because for reasons I'm still not sure qualify as sane, I'm actually going to be there on Saturday night. So
would I.
Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the Gators and the Canes for the final time. Predictions, we're going to do our keys to the game, and then we're going to give our percent chance we think Florida wins, and then our scores. Adrian, your keys are what?
I got 3 here. We always go with 3 or so. First one, Florida has to hold their own on the lines of scrimmage. Already talked about the offense. Francis Mauigoa, Sansamo Kunlola, the right side of Miami's offensive line. Mauigoa is the right tackle. Anez Cooper is the right guard. Just 2 road graders, man. Anez Cooper will probably be a top 2 round pick. That's going to be where they go for their big runs when they need them. They go on to the right side. On the other side of the ball, the O-line, Florida's O-line's got to hold their own against Miami's D-line. Florida's right side, conversely, Florida's right side of our offensive line has been just trouble, man. Trouble all season. And Miami has 2 defensive ends. On one side, you got Ruben Bain. On the other side, you got Akeem Mesidor. Ruben Bain's number 4. Mesidor's number 3. Keep an eye on those guys, man. They might possibility exists that DJ Lagway could have a short night just because of them 2. Okay, if you know what I mean. So keep an eye on the Miami defensive line, especially against Florida's O-line. That could be just a wrecking crew right there. Number 2, Lagway's last stand, Neil. That's it. I think this is Lagway's last stand. If all the problems persist, I was listening to Shane Matthews today, and I always bring him up because Shane was my first Gator QB in '92. He was the first Gator quarterback when I was a freshman. That was Shane's senior year. So I love watching Shane's show, listening to him on the radio. Hey, Shane said he knows a little bit about quarterbacking, man. He said that there's no way to fix DJ's mechanical issues at this stage of the season. That's something you got to work on in the offseason. So all his mechanical issues with footwork, all that stuff, that looks awful. Shane verifies it. You know, it's just awful. Shane does obviously the play-by-play also. Or excuse me, he's the analyst of the Gator games. So if that's the case, Neil, nothing's going to get better with DJ, to be honest with you. It's going to be a lot of the same. So we got to see if there's any way that any of that changes this game. Okay, so I have it down as DJ's last stand. And then number 3, and this is like a slam dunk. You could put this to keys to the game for any game from like Pop Warner all the way to like, the penal league in unnecessary roughness. Limit penalties and limit turnovers. But I got to bring it up because of what's happened to Florida the last 2 weeks, okay, with penalties and then, of course, with turnovers last week. So Florida just has to limit penalties and limit turnovers to have any chance. They've had 3 TDs. I've never seen that. 3 touchdowns called back from penalty in back-to-back games in a 2-game span. They've had 3 touchdowns called back for penalties. I've never seen that, man. And then, of course, the turnovers. So those are my 3 keys, man.
Yeah, I mean, you took one of mine, the penalties.
Which was it?
Florida.
Penalties?
You got to stop committing stupid penalties. I mean, they're the hustle penalties that you can live with. As infuriating as it was, like the Najee Harris penalty, because he didn't let go in time of the jersey on LSU. Like, all right, you can make peace with that because he's trying, he's giving effort. You can respect that. But the stuff like spitting at your opponents and not getting lined up for the right play, and even though, I mean, this is not a penalty, but having to burn a timeout because you're not ready for the play after a timeout has already been called before. Stuff like that, like you got to be ready to go, man. Like you got to be ready to play football. You got to be ready rep the Florida Gators on the football field. And you know what? If you put forth the effort and you try and you wind up getting called for one of those hustle penalties because you hit a guy out of bounds or you go for the head like Whit Weeks did. Like Whit Weeks got ejected from LSU. He was trying. He was going forth and putting effort out for his logo. Fine. Live with those. I swear, I see one more penalty from Florida that's of the pre-snap or post-snap variety, or I see one more timeout get called because they don't know what the play is. I'm just going to snap. I'm going to lose my mind, the likes of which people on Twitter think they've seen before, but they have not. It's going to be an all-time ugly crash out if I see one more of those under Billy Napier. If Napier is fired and it happens under an interim coach, I'll make peace with it because, all right, at least we're trying something different there. But I'm so far beyond my wits' end with Napier and his brand of ball and the levels of idiocy that come with it. But in the interest of giving an actual key to the game, I'll say don't do that, even though I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's coming. But that's number one. Number two is you got to limit Carson Beck. I mean, you talked about some of their weapons, talked about Malachi Toney, but you got to get after him. There's been zero pressure applied to any quarterback this year, including Long Island, with their offensive line of about, 60% the body mass of Florida's. So that's not good. And now you're going up against a real offensive line for the second week in a row. LSU's offense as a whole wasn't very good, but their offensive line has some muscle mass there. Miami's potentially has even more. So, again, you want to talk last stand. This is it, guys. Let's get some pressure on Carson Beck. Let's not ask our secondary to have to hold coverage for more than 4 or 5 seconds. That's not fair to them. And it's time for you guys to do your part as pass rushers. You're doing okay against the run. You're doing pretty well against the run. And overall, you don't allow too many yards. But again, we talk about the dam breaking. I think one of the ways it does is if the pass rush just doesn't get home and the rest of the unit finally collapses. So it's time for the defensive line to do its part and generate some pressure on Carson Beck and some bad decisions from him, the way we saw last year when he was in the black and red of Georgia. And then key number 3 is a little similar to that, but on the other side of the ball, you got to see DJ Lagway get time to do his thing because we know he doesn't have it right now. We talked about it. You talked about it. He doesn't have it, right? Footwork's not getting fixed. Mechanics are not getting fixed. The only thing you can do better for him is give him a little bit more time. For the most part, the offensive line was solid against LSU. Still not a ton of time. You need to be great. You cannot just be above average or good against Miami with this version of DJ Lagway or Trammell Jones for that matter. If you decide to go that route, freshman making his first real appearance in an actual game against a respectable opponent that's not Long Island. So in either scenario, whether it is DJ Lagway playing wounded or just mentally not there, or it's the true freshman Trammell Jones, you got to be on your A-plus game if you're Florida's offensive line and give our QB time to throw. So with that said, Adrian, I meant to ask Dustin to give a graphic for this, but it's way too late for that now. So once again, I guess we'll just write it down on our papers. I have the iPad. I will write it down here. Starting with Texas. How about this? Starting when we have our interim coach, we will do it on a graphic. I mean, we will reveal our picks live on the show that way. But for now, we'll do it this way one more time. Make a nice, pretty box around my winner pick. So, Adrian, you have yours written down?
Yeah, man, I'm good to go. Percent chance
All right,
and score.
Let's do it. On the count of 3, we'll show it to the world. 1, 2, 3, big reveal. There we go. Wow. Okay. Huh. We're more or less in the same ballpark.
We're right there, man.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
We're pretty close. Yeah, I mean, I think Florida gets a touchdown here or there, like when the game is fairly close. Kind of like last year where you had the one big run by Montreal Johnson. Nice block by Jake Slaughter to spring that. You get hope for a minute, but there's no way this is a fight for more than a quarter or two at most.
Oh, my God. I got a 31-point game You have a 25-point game?
25.
25-point game?
Yep.
Either one of these scores should get Billy fired. Either one of these scores. I mean, you go down to Miami and lose by 25 plus. I don't know how you still have a job, right? After what's happened already and what's happened in the last 4 years.
You don't. I mean, to be completely fair, we are deviating from what the odds makers say. I mean, the line is 7.5. Our own model, Dustin's college football forecaster model, does say, I believe, 6. Dustin's model says 6. The Vegas line is 7.5. So we are deviating from that quite drastically. But I mean, this is where you have a conversation here, Adrian, of we've watched this team and we know what they do versus Vegas knows everything. Like we've watched this Gator team probably more than a lot of people who do these odds, but they also somehow know everything, which is how they so frequently and frighteningly accurately nail these lines. Of course, again, Dustin's model is pretty good. It's only, I think, in its second year of actual life, but it's, again, batting almost 2/3 in terms of picking against the spread. So it, in theory, if you want to go by the letter of the law here, Dustin's model technically has picked Florida to beat the Vegas spread. So, again, a model that's batting almost 2 out of 3 picks Florida to defeat the spread. I mean,
what is the spread right now, by the way?
7.5. It started at 3. It exploded up to 8.5 or 9, depending on where you got it from. And now it's back down to 7.5. I've been telling all my friends who bet on college football to bet on the Canes to cover the spread. I think this is a broken Florida team. And for those of you out there who want to criticize me as negative, and will probably do so again after seeing this clip, please know it is my deepest desire to cover a Gator football team that does not have me in this position. I would love nothing more. I guarantee you that I get infinitely more clicks when Florida's good than when they're bad. So put that to rest. There's no agenda here. There's just, I've watched the team. I've watched the team play. That's it.
I'm just gonna vibe, man. I'm gonna go down. I'll be driving down on Thursday. Gonna do a quick pit stop in Tampa Thursday night. Friday, I'll start heading down to Miami. Be at my friend's house. He's doing a brisket. He's smoking a brisket Friday. Pool party. Then Saturday night, well, I'm gonna be tailgating with nothing but Miami fans. They get there at 2:00 when they open up the parking lot. Because remember, they don't have an on-campus stadium, so it's a parking lot at Joe Robbie Stadium. Will always be Joe Robbie Stadium to me, not what is it now? TGI Friday Stadium?
Hard Rock.
Hard Rock.
Hard Rock. You could come up with plenty.
It's like it's like a 2-hour plane ride from like their campus. But anyways, I'm just gonna vibe, man. I'm just gonna have a good time. If Florida happens to pull this out, I'm going to be the happiest person in the state of Florida probably. But, man, Neil, I just can't even see – forget the spread. I can't even see him keeping it within 14 points, man. I just think this has the possibility to really go off the rails here Saturday.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I think it sucks because that's how you say goodbye to one of the great rivalries in college football. I'm sure someday down the road they'll play again. Neither of us may be alive to see it, but I'm sure it's not officially the end forever, but it feels like it. Because this is the last game for the foreseeable future. We do not have the crystal ball in front of us. We do not know what college football playoff matchups will come to pass in the year 2056. So as far as we can tell, this is goodbye. This is the end of this rivalry. And I'll on the show this way. I've done this a couple times before, and Florida was the massive favorite. I have not had to do it yet, so I'll happily do it again. In honor of the Florida flop, with the Florida players jumping into the Flipper the Dolphin pool in the old Orange Bowl Stadium. If Florida pulls this upset off, I will find a pool or a lake and I will jump in whatever clothes I wear to the game Saturday night. I don't know which pool or lake it is. I'm going to find one. I'm going to say this on the record. I don't know which lake or body of water it will be, but I will find one that is not infested with crocodiles or alligators or sharks, and I will jump into it. That's my promise. And I will do it in my game day attire. So the polo, the hat, all of it. So that's my promise. And that would be a hell of a way to say goodbye to Florida, Miami, wouldn't it?
We'll see.
It's just not going to happen. But like, just think about that for 5 seconds until you realize, Miami has the way better team this year. But it's nice to dream. Like you said,
you know what? One of the things that Florida has that is a possibility, a hope, is that Mario Cristobal could just screw it up because he's good for one or two of these a year, in which he just has massive brain farts and will give you the game. But for that to happen, you got to be still somewhat close in the ball game, Neil, for like Mario Cristobal's game day decisions to like give you a victory, right? Because him and Billy are right there as far as game day coaches. They're like two of the worst in college football.
Billy's worse. Mario is bad. I know the kneel down against Georgia Tech. I know Billy's worse.
Billy's got to be close.
So many more. Okay.
But that's the point. You got to be close. You have to still be somewhat close in the ball game. And I think that by halftime, the verdict might be in already by halftime. So that's the problem.
Yeah, it probably will be. And it's going to be very unfortunate. But you know what? If this is what it takes to get Billy Napier out after we thought we had seen him meet the end of the line so many times before, fine. I'll take it. Just to rip the Band-Aid off and start over. And then, you know what? The best bragging right will be against Miami down the road. You can have this last one. But 20, 30 years from now, when Florida's actually winning again and Miami's not, we'll go back and we'll say, yeah, but you know what? Here we are winning titles. You guys still have not won the Atlantic Coast Conference. That'll be the way to end it. That'll be the way to do it. They won't have anything to say back to us. So
we need Georgia Tech, baby. Georgia Tech's got to win it this year because Clemson don't look like they're gonna have much.
Dabo Sweeney is our head coach, or Brent Key is our head coach. Not Dabo Sweeney, but Brent Key is our head coach. That's a rumor people have been propagating. But all right, y'all. Like you said, Adrian, I'll be vibing. Like they said, I'm also making a weekend out of it. I'm going to not your friend's house. I'm going to hang out with the Houston family, who I'm very close with. Going to watch James' little brother Josh play some football for American Heritage against Edna Carr. That'll be fun. Get to hang out with them. See some more family on Saturday morning, and then I'll reconnect with you at the game. Sunday, I'll see more family, and then I'll go back home late Sunday night. So should be an enjoyable time. And if the Gators happen to win and I happen to jump into a body of water, then cool. But we're not counting on it. So until next time, y'all, go Gators in all kinds of weather. We'll all stick together for FLORIDA. We hope we have an upset of epic proportions to bring to you next time. We just don't think that's going to be the case. But you never know, so be sure to tune in to the next episode of the In All Kinds of Weather Forecast to see what we have to talk about. If it's a new coach, if it's an upset win for Florida, if it's neither, if it's both, who knows? But in the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating and give us a 5-star review and a nice rating. I say that backwards every time. Give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts. It's very late when we're recording this. And tell your friends, because that helps us bring you more great Gator content. So until then, Neil Schulman signing off with Adrian Perez. See you next week. Go Gators. Let's do something hilarious, and let's make a memory we'll never forget. Yeah, right.
Go Gators.